inspires you. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you get on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You can also follow the live video stream of this program via our Facebook page on Vaughan Radio and our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you all again. Tonight, the Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists. A very pleasant good evening to all those who are listening and viewing this edition. Let me say good evening to all those persons who are here in the Federation, in St. Kitts and Nevis, to those who are in the British and United States Virgin Islands, those are along the Caribbean train all the way down to Trinidad and Guyana, up north to Puerto Rico, Jamaica, to all those in North America, Europe, a very pleasant good evening to you. Webbo, let me say to all those persons here in the Federation who are in our various hospitals, who are in those institutions for some needed medical attention, I hope that our medical professionals, along with divine intervention, would certainly nurse them back to good health. To those families, Webbo, who are in mourning tonight, let me take this opportunity to offer my sincerest condolences. I know it's never easy to lose a loved one, a friend or colleague, and I hope that they would remember their loved one, their friend, their colleague with fond memories. To those who are celebrating, and I hope that they are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, I certainly want to wish them a wonderful, wonderful evening. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation, and I'm certainly looking forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Webbo. Thank you for inviting me once again to this wonderful program, and usually we have such conversations that, of course, issues affecting the people locally, regionally, and globally. Webbo, we've been going through some beautiful weather here in Nevis, I must say, and I suppose we're looking forward to a good summer and a festive occasion going forward. I do hope everyone in tune to this program is in good health, and those who are not, I suppose I'll wish you speed recovery. And Webbo, I must say once again, thank you for having me.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts, and more particularly the gracious people of Nevis. Those who will be listening to us on the World Wide Web and throughout the Caribbean Basin. Well, it is, of course, a pleasure for being here, and I look forward to this evening's proceedings as we hash out topics that are of national, regional, and global importance to our little island of Nevis, and more particularly the island of St. Kitts Nevis, nation of St. Kitts Nevis, and therefore we must applaud and beckon to people to come, because it is the best place on earth to be, St. Kitts and Nevis. We, of course, have tranquility, security, and with that, prosperity, based on what I'm seeing, is looming. And if you are only able to look at what is happening, you would see that the stability that the Honorable Mark Brantley, through his leadership, has brought about, we expect to have prosperity, upward and onward. Therefore, I say kudos. I don't like to use that word, but at the same time, I say congratulations to the Honorable Dr. Brantley for his sterling leadership, which he has brought to the fore, and which has led him to have gone on for that award in New York. And as a result, I think we have to commend his leadership, because he has passed the baton on to the Honorable Spencer Rand as acting Premier. And therefore, that speaks volumes. It speaks volumes to tell you what has transpired in his absence. And I'm saying, you got an opportunity, Honorable Spencer Brand, to be at the helm, where every call that comes into the Premier's ministry would be handled by you in this short stint, and learn as much as you can learn, and guide as much as you can guide, and make decisions. Don't hold back on making decisions. That's why you're put there. And therefore, you play the role. You're given the responsibility. Now you've got the authority. So, I am saying to you, Honorable Acting Premier, play the part. Webbo.
Webbo, since Mr. Stanley have passed the torch, so to speak, as it regards to my acting as Premier, I want to use this opportunity in my capacity as acting Premier to, certainly on behalf of all the people of Nevis, here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and further afield in the entire diaspora, to offer our heartiest and sincerest congratulations to the Honorable Dr. Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, who will be honored in a few days' time by the American Foundation for the University of the West Indies. About this, I believe, is a very distinguished recognition, not so much of our Premier or of a Nivision, but I think that when we as Nivisions and Kittitians look at the history or the path that the Honorable Mark Brantley would have taken or come, I believe that it should be inspirational to every boy and every girl here on the island of Nevis, in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, that once you apply yourselves, once you commit yourself to hard work, once you dedicate yourself to community service and the advancement of humanity, you may not notice it, but people will notice you. And I really want to say, Webbo, that this, I believe, is a recognition of all the people of Nevis through the Premier of Nevis. It's a personal recognition to him, but I believe also, Webbo, that it's a recognition of the people of Nevis, because I am one who believe that it was, and I'm going to say something here, that I believe that it was the entire island of Nevis, because of our commitment, so to speak, to raising our children. And the Honorable Mark Brantley was one such, raised by an entire community, an entire society. I think that the people of Nevis can take heart that here is a gentleman who have once again been recognized on the world stage. So I want to use the Mr. Stanley have kind of put me on the spot here with my acting Premier. So I want to use that platitude and to say to our Premier, Dr. Mark Brantley, heartiest congratulations, certainly on behalf of all the people of Nevis. I believe that all the people of Nevis are happy, are celebrating, despite our political differences at times. I believe that when one of our sons and our daughters have been recognized on the global stage, we all rally with them. And I really want to say to him tonight, wherever he is, I know he is en route, but I want to say to him, congratulations. And I believe that all of us, certainly all of us, I know the entire cabinet is proud of him as he continues to lead with stellar leadership. And we certainly want to wish him every success and continued progress here for the island of Nevis. Webbo.
I would join with you, Mr. Brann, Honorable Mr. Brann, and Acting Premier of Nevis, in congratulating Mark. I think last week I said quite a lot in that respect. Of course, I am always so proud when a Nevisian have risen to that height, where we can see, you know, on the global stage, and such recognition is given as a reflection of our Nevisians. As you said, Mr. Brann, and you're so correct, you know, the way we invest in our kids, the way we recognize talent at times, and give such support. And of course, Mark Brantley was one who actually soak up that to a great extent. He had the capacity, the intelligence, and he made no joke with it. Mark Brantley is always a very hard-working person, and I know that from a very, very long time. You know, I could remember one time I came off a plane from London, and I realized he was on the plane, and that's when he was going to school in Oxford. And he said to me, we came down to Antigua, and he said to me he was actually heading to New York, where he was going to have a job, fulfill a job that his father looked for him just for the summer, and then he would be moving back. And I said, wow, you know, guy just fresh out of university, out of school, and he's already bouncing around the world, you know, and actually doing good things. I mean, as I said last week, Mark is an inspiration, you know, and I hope a lot of us can recognize that in him, and then he can share that his story with a lot of youths, you know, here in the ghetto, you know, for want of a better word, in Brownhill and everywhere else, you know, touch those youths, you know, and also to implant in them that responsibility, like we're looking forward, you know, and that's the point I made once upon a time, and some people got it wrong, you know, when I said, well, people like Mark really, if you can reach out to our exceptional sportsmen and women and people of great talent, and implant in them that responsibility, because we are looking forward to that upliftment here in Nevis. You know, we're looking forward to that upliftment, and I always say it doesn't always come from a politician. It's come from our talented people, our artists, our whatever, our sports people, you know, and so a man who have reached thus far. We've reached thus far and still very close to us, you know, and I'm sure he does that, you know, and there are people without him speaking to them are certainly inspired by their knowledge and knowings of him. So yes, congratulations to the fullness, Mark, and I would like to see you reach to more heights, and so we can be even more proud, you know, of a fellow Nevisian who have achieved that much, you know, and of course is on a global stage at this point, you know, and I would, you know, share with Mr. Brann, said that, I mean, that success, or any Nevisian success, outstanding success, you know, can be viewed as a success of Nevis. Yep. You know, I could remember back then, and that's why I always speak of people like El Comito Willen. You know, back then when we were going through a lot political turmoil and the passing of so many loved ones under Christina, you know, people like El Comito Willits, you know, kind of really lift the spirit of this little island, and so it's a little island, and we are deeply affected by little things, but we are also very elevated, also by our fellow men, you know, doing good on the world stage and inspiring us all, you know. So kudos, my brethren, and I look forward to, you know, bigger things for you. I've been told he might vacate the political scenery. I've been told, and I'm sure.
He told us so?
Oh no! But he doesn't have to told. He didn't. He didn't have to tell me that.
Did you hear the last sentence when he closed the program?
No, I didn't hear the last sentence.
Wednesday night?
I didn't hear the last sentence.
He
But
said-
I am just saying what bounce around on the walls in Charlestown at times. and sure, he would be certainly missed. A man who have shifted, so much political levers around here, and I think if he's taking that vacation, it's a bit early. But I mean, he would have so much and many reasons why if he chooses that part. And so, but for now, we look forward to the happenings in politics here in Nevis, and of course, in the midst of all this, all no one is perfect, and in the world of politics, one could be critically analyzed, and then basically left in the wind to the electorate, and that is what we call democracy. And so, as the Premier of Nevis, and you, the acting Premier, Mr. Brand, your responsibilities is huge. Are huge, your responsibilities are.
Well, let me just tell you, you know how long Herbert stayed in office? I think he came out and then went back again. But he ran Antigua into his ripe age. And I could tell you, the last statement the Honorable Dr. Brantley said on his program, they will lose again. You interpret that to mean what? Naya?
I interpret that to mean, as he said it straight up, literally, that he thinks they're going to lose again. But that have nothing to do with whether he might be part of it, yes or not. I cannot read into that from that statement.
You cannot draw the inference from that to state categorically
that he will participate in the next election? No, I cannot, no.
A good captain...
But that is good, that is good.
A good captain doesn't abandon ship.
Well, of course not, of course.
And based on the leadership that he has provided thus far, he has been labeled as an excellent or par excellence captain. Thus, he has to leave a legacy. And all his mouth, 40? So he got another 30 years there.
Yeah, but every good performer knows when to leave the stage.
Not every good performer, but I know this one. I know this one. So, based on what I'm telling you, I
think you're asking too much of one individual. I mean, so he's going to just do...
He's got the capacity.
He got the capacity to... But isn't it unfair for you to ask of him that? I mean, you have committed all his life?
Edric.
Yes.
What happened? They not persuaded that your horse will run again? They're trying to foot trick you again?
They can't.
So that's the only how they can beat you? That your horse doesn't go in the race? Well, so they want you to anyway, that might be a light moment. Let me get this. This is Thought That Get Results. Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nyaliver, the Honorable Spencer Brand. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. I got something that I got to mention, but I wanted to know if you all were finished with that light moment or discussion that you were having first. I wanted to give you all as much time as possible because I find it intriguing as to why does everybody think that Edric's horse, and only him should not run again. If it's a light moment, say it. But I am wondering why they're picking on you, Edric.
Well, I'll tell you, that horse has been proven,
Time and time again.
and we'll put him down the track as often as he wants.
So although you tell them that, they still do not want to accept it, and so they just want you to take your horse out of the race so that they can win.
Quite so, but it doesn't happen that way,
Okay, all right. So you're done with that. So I wanted to know how many persons got the late breaking news with the case with Fox. They said, right. So what I found was interesting, and I took a quotation from the Dominion lawyers having a press conference afterwards. They settled, because a lot of folks were following the case and perhaps were trying to catch up on the news, and when the trial was about to start, the judge asked for a break, and he was going to talk to the teams, and came back and said they've reached a settlement. And they waited until the trial was about to start in court, because all the analysts and the commentators and so on were discussing before that as to whether or not they will settle, why they would settle or why they wouldn't settle, and all that. And the world, in my view, was waiting to see the outcome of this. And the lawyer, or the lead counsel for Dominion, that's the voter machines persons who brought the case, made a statement which I made a note of, part of it. He said, the truth matters.
Yep.
Lies have consequences.
Yep.
And I put an add to that, example of a consequence, $787.5 million.
Yep.
But apart from that, what the debate is fleshing out now is not just the monies involved, because they said that organization, Fox, their cash in hand is something like $4 billion. So they're not stressed about that. But is the other consequences and the other fallouts. Now, one of the things that was interesting, one of the commentators said that should now bring things back on even keel. Because for the past 3 years people have been debating about alternate facts. And you remember with the COVID, and so people were making a heyday out of that by just telling lies and getting multitudes of people to go along with it, and then you began to get confused as to the difference between lies and truth. And so what is very significant is that people will now understand this is a clear illustration and a clear example that the truth matters, even if it's way down the road. And one other commentator said that it's going to be interesting now to see how politicians and others shape their messages, understanding from the fallout or the result of this particular case, right? So that's my take on it. I don't know, as I said, anybody else have a comment?
Well, I listened to a segment of the, as you call it, breaking news. But for me, the takeaway from it was this, in my mind, Webbo, is a hefty price to pay for what I call responsible journalism, or put differently, irresponsible journalism. You mentioned about COVID, and I often say, Webbo, that I think that the world would have been in a much better position or in a different place if, quote unquote, more responsible journalism was placed on the screen from media organizations such as Fox. We hear about all of these conspiracy theories and so on, and I believe that it has created a kind of chaos and confusion in the world. When I heard that the makers of these voting machine, Dominion, was taking Fox to court, I said, oh, this one is one that we need to pay attention to. Because for many years, Webbo, we have seen such organizations that have used their various platforms to spew what we call pure garbage. And as the lawyers for Dominion indicated today, truth matters and lies have consequences. When we think about the number of persons who would have died in the United States and across the world because of misinformation, because of lies, because of people who were prepared to misrepresent the facts during the COVID, is $787 million enough for these persons? I believe, Webbo, that a majority of the world has been looking towards the United States for many decades for the basic foundation and the basic principles of democracy. And when we have seen in the last few years how, in my mind, that the core of democracy have been trampled upon and have been threatened because of lies, because of persons who are prepared to use the platform that they have had to try and deceive and mislead people. Is $787 million enough? And Webbo, I hope that this case, as you have said, would try and reposition persons to at least get it right, get the facts, tell the truth. It doesn't really matter which side the truth is on, but are we going to see that shift? Are media organizations, organizations such as these are now going to pivot? I think that the jury is still out on that one. But I think, Webbo, that what we have seen today is a clear indication that it is all well and good to have a mouthpiece and a platform, but I think that giving accurate information and telling the truth will always have some consequences once you decide to go contrary to the truth.
Well, Rupert Murdoch has made billions, and based on that amount which they've settled for, he came out laughing all the way back to the bank, simply because that is not enough. They, in fact, based on the lies that they have propelled, they made billions out of it, with reference to Donald Trump and his misinformation. Based on how things went down with that election, with his anchors spewing consistently misinformation, and they've been doing it simply for ratings, to keep ratings up. And based on those ratings, you can equate far more than 787 or 785, whatever the amount is not enough. Ms. Bartoloma is suing Fox for a lot of money simply because she actually has been sidelined. But they all benefited, and therefore Fox has to be able to pay. Well, they settled, and that might be the bottom line.
There are two general segments to this, Edric, and I get you, and I rely on you for the money part of it, because all thing money is you. You know about that, right? But I think the greater part of it is the moral side of it.
Trust, integrity.
And as Mr. Brand said, the world has been waiting on it, because from that you had other media houses across the globe and individuals doing the same thing, because they've been getting away with it and it seems as if it was okay. So apart from the monies, and I did indicate that their cash on hand is $4 billion, so one out of that is not going to bother them, and as you said, they're making, so I don't, the money part of it is just one thing, and I don't, as you said, maybe it's just a drop in the bucket. But the fact that people must understand that it's not okay to just get up and tell lies on people to attain and achieve certain things. And I was discussing it with somebody today, and I used our own local example. Remember, and I said to them, remember when this friend of mine called in and suggested that he has a little issue that when he calls here, as if we know his number, and so we disconnect him right away and so on. And I told him he must stop it, because he know it's not true. And then he said to me, well, let's talk, like Mr. Brantley show. And I said, stop it too, that is not true as well. So what he was doing, he wanted me to feel good, because it's talking about Mr. Brantley doing it. And I said, the truth is, Mr. Brantley does not operate the phones. Our staff here, so you're not really saying unkind things about Mr. Brantley, it's about us. And it's not true. You must stop it. So, as I said, as a friend of mine, I spoke with him off here. I invited him to call back. He felt bad. You know why? Because he admitted to me that his people encourage him to say so. And that bothers me. And I know it happens a lot. A lot of people who go and repeat things, certain people tell them to do it. And I keep telling people all the time, when the hammer falls, those people will say, I knew you not. I don't know him. Right? So I am glad that it happens, so that at least people understand. If you want to debate me. And if you cannot debate, walk with me. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm so intrigued every time I hear Edric defending his horse. Why is it you want Edric horse to think that's the only way you can beat him? You want a good race, get on the track. Ask for a good fair track and run. And if you get beat, you're beat. You don't just fool Edric and tell him his horse is injured, so you must take him out of the race. He already told you. See, I like a good debate, you know what I mean? And but you mustn't tell lies on people and do these kind of things, you know what I'm saying? I know what I'm talking about. It happens all around. So I'm hopeful that people would stop it. There'll always be lies, but sometimes we take it too far.
Well, I don't think the judge took into consideration the collateral damage that Fox did.
No, there was a settlement. It wasn't.
That was settled outside.
It was settled between me and you.
Yeah, well,
that's what happened.
I hear you.
So, Mr. Brand, you know what we're doing, Edric, here? We're fact checking him. They're saying to him now, don't mislead the public to think that he was a judge. No, it was something that was settled between
look.
Hello, walk with me. It was something that was settled between the two parties.
I understood.
Well, I'm doing it for the audience, right?
I misspoke.
Oh, well, so that's why I'm here, to intervene, and they don't get the wrong impression. So what happened was, both parties decided, okay, we're not going to go to trial. How much you want? Okay, this amount, and so we settle it. But part of the settlement was that the Fox agreed to admit
That they lied.
that they lied.
That they lied.
They told the lies and stuff
And
like
that,
that.
I believe, is going to hurt them more than anything else.
Well, you see, my thing is and hope is that the ordinary folks now will understand that and then govern themselves accordingly. Because you have some people who are very daring and willful, you know. A person who is hell-bent on deceit will continue to do so. Sometimes you let a fellow out of jail because he fooled you and said that I'm changed, I'm saved, and so on. And then he just gets stronger and go back and do the same thing. But I'm hoping that those of us who are spreading the alternate facts and telling lies and benefit from it and so on and so forth to hurt people, perhaps, you know, change a little.
Yep.
Well, like I said, there is collateral damage that had been done to other networks, and therefore the lawyers may have not taken that into consideration, and they should have piled on for a higher settlement that would taken the $4 billion that Rupert Murdoch and his organization has. They have not quantified the collateral damage to the extent where they should be put out of business. Do you remember the?
By the way, just I'm not to finish. By the way of information, they said that the Dominion company was valued about $30 million. So imagine you valued $30 million, and then you get up the next day and you find that your profitability on a particular thing is $787 million. But I get you, Edric, you know about money. So if you said that's not enough, you know.
You see, you remember the accounting from Arthur Anderson?
Yes.
They were put out of business simply because they, in fact, did erroneous calculations over a period of time, and therefore Fox should have been put out of business.
By who? Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening.
Yes. Good evening.
It's interesting that that Fox case, right? Yes, a lot of people were waiting on the results, but I don't think it's going to impact Fox that much, because as I listened to a BBC report, they said that essentially the settlement represents about half of a year's profit from Fox. Okay, so they're not going to really feel it as much, well, not yet anyway, in their pocket. What may happen is that you might have a cascading number of lawsuits from other companies, right, who've seen this. Actually, there was one that was mentioned, Mathematics or something like that, who is asking for much more than this settlement. And even this settlement represented, I think, half of what Dominion wanted initially. Okay, so if there's a cascading effect, then I think they would start to feel it and change the way they do business. The thing is, though, as the report suggested, even if advertisers pulled their ad because of other business arrangements with cable network, Fox will still be profitable. In other words, they don't have to rely on the advertisers. I think most other networks are very careful not to upset the advertisers, but Fox is not in that same position. And so one of the things out of this agreement, the particular hosts for programs did not have to say that they lied. It's going to be, I don't know, maybe executives or somebody else who's going to admit that there were inaccuracies and lies were told, but not the individual people like Hannity and whoever else.
Who wants to do it?
Because they were the ones who spewed it.
Yeah, well,
You know, you would think that there's some kind of retraction or something from them.
Yeah, but I think what happened with that though was this: they made the organization made a blanket apology or statement,
right,
admitting that they told the lies. You see, what happens when you're making a deal, you give and take, and as you said with the individual, they didn't have to make an individual apology, but they're part of the organization. But one commentator pointed out that the evidence is already out there, where Hannity and company, as you mentioned, the evidence is there that they lied.
Mm-hmm. Well, but
this is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The evidence is there, so there ain't no issue with that. But just I wanted to point that caller add or make in terms of the point that you were making with the monies.
Mm-hmm.
I was suggesting that there are two general sides to this: the money side, which you pointed out and you gave some examples. The other side was the moral side, which you cannot attach a money value to. And if we were to get people to stop spreading the lies and the alternate facts and so on and so forth, I think that's where the other side of it would have won.
But the problem with that is that they have a following, a very unique type of following, and that is why I think they basically insisted that the hosts themselves would not have to personally apologize, because each of them have a very fanatical following, okay? And they are less interested in the moral side of things.
Right. So here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a crazy following, and you just come out of a case where you admitted that you told lies and there were some consequences. You go back to that same crazy following and tell same lies, different lies and so on, but lies nonetheless. What do you think is going to happen?
Not one thing.
No, but somebody else is going to bring the thing.
Somebody else going to bring what?
Bring a case against you too. There's no precedence.
No, they probably no. In terms of change in behavior, yes, I suspect they'll be more careful.
So
with those things.
So work with me. That's exactly the point that I'm making. So that if people could change their behavior, it will help. I don't know when you tune in. I just made a local example, right, with a friend of mine who called in and knowingly told lies, so that we probably were cutting off people or whatever, right? And it changed the behavior, because although he and I are friends, and I know he keeps listening, he hasn't called back since. So Edric, you're my Ted. Work with me. Edric, you're my Ted Hobson for tonight. Did I make a good case there?
Yes, you did.
Okay, go ahead, caller.
Yeah, you realize though that in terms of the following, the listenership, it's not going to change, because Fox represents a kind of a, shall we say, opposition to the establishment.
Yeah, I understand that.
Right.
But here's the thing, caller. You know what is going to be? You know what is going to be interesting now? And one of the commentators making the same point. How many of the politicians now will still go ahead campaigning and saying that the election was stolen? After the evidence has come out, they have admitted, yes, we were telling lies and stuff like that. So anyway, caller, thank you.
That will be good to see.
Yeah, it will be good to see. So we'll watch it going forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me just bring to the fore. You taking a call?
No, go ahead.
See, United States government and its value, which is billions or trillions, was on the line, and therefore a cost must be attached to that.
Democracy.
Because had these, well, I do not want to use your term alternate facts because that is an inaccurate statement. But what I'm saying to you, the democracy and the United States government, had these lies were able to follow through, you know what happened on January 6th? Trump wanted to take the United States completely out of democracy, out of a democratic established nation, into an authoritative government, which would have cost trillions of dollars, and therefore Fox should be put out of business completely.
Let me ask you this, Edric. No matter what it is in life, you always equate it to dollars?
No way. I'm not a one-track mind. I don't have a one-track mind.
Well,
you brought in the moral aspect.
Walk with me. I try to say from the onset, when I introduced the topic, I said I am putting it in two general areas. Right, Mr. Brand?
Yes.
One is the financial aspect of it, and the other is the fallout from the moral aspect of it. And every time I try to separate them, you come back and you merge them. So that help. Walk with me. Hence the question: Is it fair? Is it based on my explanation, my logic? Is it a fair question?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But I still have to tell you that you have to merge them and quantify them and put a dollar value on the moral aspect, because we got January 6th. You know how much that cost?
How much? You obviously don't know.
No, I'm going to put a cost on it.
Okay.
It was about $1 trillion.
Only that?
Well, I'm saying
But that's no money.
Well, here, had Trump been able to successfully...
What if one of the persons who were affected, for instance, the family who got somebody who died,
Right.
you said it cost $1 trillion. What if, walk with me. What if it were Mr. Brand? Mr. Brand, you they offer you $1 trillion, you will tell them give me about $5 trillion, right? But that's only for Mr. Brand. So your figure is way underestimated.
I admit.
So okay, so I got it.
You got it.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead, Naya. You want it?
No, I didn't want it. No.
Okay, Brand.
Well, I agree with you that while this is a situation that significant sums of money was on the table, I think the asking amount from Dominion was
1.6
billion dollars, settled at 780 something million. But I think Mr. Stanley is trying to say to us that we need to quantify the moral aspect of it. And I agree with him in some aspect of it, because I think that the morals of the whole political structure and the whole political activities that we have seen was, in my mind, under threat. And the kind of thing that was said about the last US election, and it almost as if that the United States, that so many countries around the world have looked up to for democracy and morals and decency was really under threat. Can we really quantify such a thing, Mr. Stanley? Can you, when you take out of the equation fairness and decency and good morals. Can we really quantify something like that? I mean, $780 something million. When you think about what democracy have meant throughout the length and breadth of the world, can we really put a figure on that? Can we quantify something like that? And I don't know if we can, but I think that will this judgment give persons reason to now pause? Will it now force people to step back and double check and triple check before they say certain things and before they do certain things and before they spew certain things out in the general public?
And Mr. Brand, as you even spoke about the other aspect, and you remember the insurrection in January 6th.
Yes.
And that was a consequence of people believing
absolutely
the lies.
Yes.
So here's the thing going forward. When they continue to mitigate or litigate these things, and they're going to be able to use this evidence, that this thing here, the evidence shows it was not true.
Absolutely.
It was predicated on lies. Because remember that some of the defenses were and still were being echoed. That, it didn't happen, or this happened, or that didn't happen. And people were running the current 2024 election on that basis as well.
Yep. But
now that you have admitted the people who were the architects of it, and now admitting, and the evidence is there. Now what you'll have to do is to come back now and say, well, I only admit it just to settle or whatever. So, I think, as I said, it mightn't convince everybody.
The punitive measures that Fox should endure is to put them completely and severally.
Okay, well, let me ask you this again, since you wouldn't go away. If someone were to rob you, this is just hypothetical, and left you maimed, can't move or anything, and they bring $100 trillion,
you still live.
Would you have taken that or accept that? If you had a choice, or they don't maim you at all, and you were able to go around, and every time I see you it's somewhere by a bank or something, and you're healthy and moving around, but if you live 200 years, you would never get that kind of money. Which one would you choose?
I would still choose leave me alone. I want to go on to my 200 years.
Okay, so it is reasonable to conclude based on your response that you're in fact saying that no amount of money can compensate you for being able to move in around and living peacefully and happily.
With freedom.
You remember we have the tape, you used to say, boy, Webbo, life sweet enough. I feel good. And I remember I played for you one day, I'm the happiest boy in the whole USA. You know the song? Maybe I could play it tomorrow too. So you now agree, you agree that money ain't everything.
No.
And in terms of no matter how much dollars you may call, it cannot buy the fact that you're able to go. So specifically now, the hurt and the non-money damage caused by persons' lies, right, cannot be compensated where money, by money. You agree with that?
Quite so.
Okay, Bran.
Well, I'm happy that you raised that, because during this whole along the path of this, I remember looking at an interview. I don't remember which network it was on. It might have been MSN or CNN. There was a lady who was up in age, and she indicated that she had been doing this working in this polling thing and this election for many years. And this was a lady who was saying that she was fearful of her life because of the lies that was spewed. This was a lady who worked in the polling, goes about her business, counted these ballots, said that Joe Biden won the election, and because of the lies that was spewed. Here is a lady saying that she was fearful. The lady is 70, almost 80 plus. Those are the kind of impact that took place because of what. And I go back again to how do we quantify persons who now have to deal with situations like these for the rest of their life. People are saying that they cannot go to the supermarket to buy milk. They have to disguise themselves. They have to, because people was now after them, and those kind of things. And 787.5 million.
Yeah, but I don't want us to mix up that either. For the persons who are not abreast of and been following the case and who get their information from us, by saying $787 million is perhaps not enough. I think we need to make it clear that the 787 million was only to one group or entity that they hurt.
One case.
One case.
That's right.
That isn't like saying that for all that they did, they had to pay 787 million. Let's use a hypothetical to explain it. If that person told lies on all of us who are here, Edric, Naya, Brandon, myself, but Edric decided, I'm going to take them on, I'm going to go forward. And Edric gets a settlement for $787 million. And as somebody were to make a statement, no, they should have paid more than that. But that's only for Edric.
That's right.
Naya is still to come, if he wants to. Brandon is still to come. And you know what, I don't like too much confusion, so I might stay. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to make the point.
I don't like confusion either.
Well, but you will have to go though.
Yeah.
And I know you don't like confusion because you came here and said in the campaign they told some lies on you. You remember that?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. But that's for another discussion, right? But the point I'm making is, I want people to understand that the issue with Fox, in this particular situation that we're discussing, is only one entity. And I made a point earlier that in the terms of Fox and the settlement, their company is valued at $30 million. They got a settlement of $787 million. And even the experts, Edric, who know money and so on like you, they said it's a decent payoff in that case. But that, to put it aside from the fact that that is not all they will pay. By the way, they'll have to pay cost, you know. But that's just the settlement.
What would really hurt Fox is for them to go the route of Arthur Anderson, put them out of business completely.
Right, but that will only take care of the financial part.
Moral?
No, sir.
Moral?
No, sir. If, walk with me, if
On
they
one hand, moral.
walk with me, if they go out of business and they're satisfied and you're satisfied, but on the other end of it, people continue to tell lies and keep doing the same thing and stuff like that, we would have lost. You won't agree? You don't agree with that? What we want, remember again, we're putting it into two aspects.
Sure.
You're merging them again.
Well,
This fellow, all thing money is his education, right? We're saying that yes, the money settlement part of it, that probably wouldn't break them.
Is one aspect.
Is one aspect. But we're saying, will it deter people or discourage people now from going about and making up things about people, etc., etc., etc.? It's all well and good when you probably say something that's not true about somebody and it hurts them, you know. But when they do it to you, that's what I always tell people. When they do it to you, that is where the rubber meets the road, and that's where the test comes in.
That's right.
like
That's why, you know, Edric, you've been here for a while, Naya and so on, and people could always cuss me. when I hear with certain information and you can't back that up and have the evidence, I'm not entertaining it. I don't care who it is, who it's for or who it's against. You make the debate, you bring accurate information, and that is why I find it, when we're playing a game, I told somebody today, I grew up playing cricket. And we're accustomed to you and I play, and I lose, you may win, and when we finish playing cricket,
We're still friends.
not only that, we got to play football.
Okay.
So I understand that, right? We are accustomed to play the game. You lose, you're vexed, you're upset, but you come back next week and you play another match, right? And we don't use no tricks and so on to get you out of the game.
Well, Webbo, the big question is to me whether or not that settlement is going to impact on the 2024 elections.
It would have some.
How much would that impact?
It would have some impact.
But you mean in terms of whether people will continue the rhetoric, or
I believe such rhetoric would continue, but what I'm asking is whether or not it's going to impact on the electorate in terms of
Whether people are still going to believe that the election was stolen from Trump?
I don't think that would impact the electorate, you know, that settlement, you know. People and those who support Trump are bent totally on some kind of conspiracy theory.
right? But
That tends to fit in, this settlement tends to fit in with the type of things that they think about.
right. So the question I would ask is, if it wouldn't change those who already believe, would it have any new converts? What I mean by that, if
Either way.
no, meaning if there was someone who was on the fence, not knowing whether or not this thing is true, but now get this information, would it have an impact on them and say, oh well, they did admit that this thing was lies or whatever, so I'm not going to believe them.
Good.
So you know, I guess
likely,
it's left to be seen.
Yeah,
It's left to be seen, yes. But on the moral grounds, yes, it's deep rooted in I think it's globally here in Ireland as well. You know, people saying untruth about people, but at the same time, it's just a thing we do in politics.
But it happens all the time. But what I think what was happening is the acceptance of it.
Okay.
To me, it got to a stage where people were getting so brazen, right? And you know, like I said, I gave one little local example, and you know, it bothers me because people were saying this thing on the street all the time, but the fella got so bold. He called right in your own house and said it.
To challenge you.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. People are getting so bold. Just make these things, and then no, it's not true.
I don't know the facts of the case much, Webbo, in a sense. In a general sense, I understand what is taking place or what had took place. But is this decision reflecting the message that Donald Trump was trying to promote that the election was stolen? Does this decision or this settlement reflects that particular lie?
Right, because one of the things that has been happening over the past few weeks, since the case have been discussed and been ongoing and discussion and everything, is that they have stopped putting him on live. They would record him first, fact check, and then put it through. So it had some impact already
We have
in that regard.
Filtering, and that's so good for the world.
But that's what I'm saying, because people look on and things, and we follow and we say, well, okay, well, if he does that, I can do it too, and so on. So to me, sometimes it expresses weakness. I don't know how many of you remember the skater Tonya Harding, and she was supposed to and wanted to win real badly, and then she realized that coming up to the Olympics, I think it was, or the competition, she realized that they had a horse that probably will beat her. So she paid a hitman to damage that horse.
Yep.
To get her out of the race. And she became famous for that, you know. So what was her strategy? In order for me to win, do what is necessary to get that person's horse out of the race. Go in there and run the race. And if you win you fair and square, you're going to be sad. But you lost. But that's what she did. And that's why I remember her name, because it was so impactful and significant of what that person who was supposed to be a A-class skater, the lengths that they went, what they did. So the best way, in her view, for me to win is to hire a hitman and have the other person's horse wounded, get them out of the race.
But there are a lot of people who operate immorally. I mean, I just put back a sign up there, the same location, and several other signs have been taken up, but I know who the fellow is. And I'm saying, cease and desist. Leave my signs alone. I know who you are.
I don't understand. It's another light moment. I work with Edric. So when they're not trying to destroy your signs so that you don't get ahead, they're trying to tell you your horse is wounded.
Right. They try every trick, you know? You understand? I came here.
Let me get a break. This is Thought That Get Results. Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Naya Lighthearted, the Honorable Spencer Brand. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. We'll be back after this.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results. Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Naya Lighthearted, the Honorable Spencer Brand. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Mr. Brand, on another note, what's happening? You gave, I don't want to use excuse, but you gave a reason some time ago that the roads, you were a little handicapped because you had some issues with the morning machines, right?
Yeah.
And you couldn't pave. But in Bath, there's dust upon dust upon dust. What's going on with that, with the roads?
Well, we did have a fire at the asphalt plant late last year, and it took us a bit longer than we really anticipated to get that plant up and running. We finally got the entire panel box that controlled the entire plant was destroyed by fire, and parts of the insulation and so on. We got in the various parts 2 weeks ago, And we are now, Webbo, at a stage where, and of course, you know, we have had quite a bit of rains where we ended up with quite a bit of potholes, and we had to do some filling with concrete and all of that to try and. We also have at the moment on Nevis a company that is doing the section from Cliff Dwellers too, so that we would have been able to use portions of the heating element to get some asphalt for them to do their work, one, and for us to continue some of our work. In Bath Village in particular, the difficulty we had with Bath Village, and it is not an excuse, it is just probably something that happened that probably ought not to have happened. We had the election in December, and then the budget that we had was February, March. I can't remember exactly what date it is. We normally let the workers go in December for about 2 to 3 weeks. That period was extended a bit longer because of our the budget process. Perhaps, Webbo, and I just like everything else, you probably needed to look at things in a different way, and maybe we could have operated without the budget, make certain provisions and so on. And you look back at it and you realize that, you know, perhaps because of the inconvenience of having our budget pass when we did, it created a situation where the works here in Bath Village and in Butlers was delayed a bit longer than we really would have liked it to. You speak of the dust. I am aware that there has been quite a bit of dust blowing around because sometimes the water truck is not doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to be doing it. So there have been a number of challenges as it regards to that, but the biggest issue that we have had, Webbo, was with the asphalt plant that is basically almost up and running, and the extended period that we have had with our budget process because of the election. That I think that it's something that we're going to have to make sure that even if we find ourselves, for example, having an election in December, that the month that we normally have our budget, that I think that we'll have to make some different provisions to bring back out these workers to continue some of these works so the general public can have some relief a lot quicker. I think that was the challenge, that was the issue, because they normally comes out early in January, second week in January, the ending of January. They came out a lot later than that, so it created some problems.
Yeah, that was in the past.
Yes.
So,
well,
walk with me. So, since you want me to ask you directly, so what can the people expect? They understand that you had those challenges with the budget, you had the challenges with the plant and stuff like that. Going forward in the next month, 2 months, year, you expect to have the work completed?
Well, let me answer your question this way. Tomorrow at 9:30, actually, we have a scheduled meeting with the entire team, because I have said to the team that, look, we have to really do a lot better and get out of Bath Village in a lot shorter period of time. So we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow at 9:30 where we're going to look at this particular very project, and we are going to make sure that we do whatever we need to do, throw whatever resources we need to throw at it to get out of here as quickly as possible.
Now you wanted to get in?
Yes, it's in the same field, but just a different question, because I know, and I know we're talking about the north part of the island. That's been done right now, the road.
Mm-hmm.
I know from Cotton Ground to Cliffellers was done by Public Works. Am I correct?
No, sorry.
Sorry, paving.
Yeah.
Okay. The question I want to ask is, why Surrey paving when most of the work years gone by was done by Public Works? Is there a particular something have changed along the way?
Most of which one?
Road work.
Well, Public Works have done quite a bit of what we call major. It might be a funny way of putting it. Secondary road. The issue that we have is because Public Works is being utilized in so many different areas. We really do not necessarily want to have Public Works focusing on one particular major project because of the resources, and two, the manpower. It is not that they are not capable or they can't do it. That is not the issue. The issue is that Public Works is in Bath, Public Works is in Butlers, Public Works is in let's say Stony Grove and Brown Hill and so on and so forth. So I think that at times it forces us to stretch resources. But I think when you get into an agreement with Surrey Paving comes the focus on one particular project and get it done as quickly as possible. That is the challenge that we have.
Okay. Understand.
Yeah.
Just it was my concern because I know Public Works does some good work, but I could understand stretching resources. They're here and everywhere else. I could understand. Makes sense. But it's all about finance too. Obviously, that bottom line, all kind of arrangement. So I rest assured that you know what you're doing in that respect.
Well, the evidence is there, so I think we know what we are doing. I believe that we know what we are doing, and I know that we know what we are doing.
Okay, sure.
Webbo, I want to switch the topic. Not that I'm presently, Webbo, the Prime Minister is presently in Trinidad and Tobago on this regional symposium on crime. Crime challenge that they are having there in Trinidad. And I think it was just yesterday or the day before yesterday we heard some news coming out of St. Croix. There was another situation there with gun violence. We continue to hear of these incidents throughout the region. We have had our own various situations here over the past few months, from Guyana all the way up to Jamaica. And at the moment, Webbo, we have our Caribbean leaders there in Trinidad trying to wrestle with this particular issue. I am hoping, Webbo, that out of this symposium, that while they might be focusing on what I call heavy, trying to come up with some heavy solutions in terms of things like protecting our borders and more surveillance and things like that. I am hoping that they would also add to that some of these softer approaches. There must be some social intervention as it relates to involvement of family, involvement of our civil society, involvement of the church. I know a lot of responsibilities is being placed on our schools, but I think that while the thinking is that we need to come up with hard solutions, I believe also that they also need to add to that some gentler, softer, more compassionate approach to this issue of crime. Because I am convinced and persuaded, Webbo, that it is not always all the time the heavy-handed approach or the mentality of trying to destroy a mosquito with a sledgehammer. I think that we have to begin to look at our family interaction, our community's interaction. We have to begin to, in my mind, give greater support to the civil society, NGOs, the church, and call upon them to partner with our various governments and throughout the region to try and get a handle on this thing. it is for us, Webbo, in my mind, that this crime, in particular this violent crime, is a real danger to the region. And I think that while we have made some gains in our in certain developments, in certain infrastructure, in certain accomplishment as it regards to building out certain structures, I think that if we lose a generation, all of that is not going to be and worth anything. So I am hoping that out of this symposium in Trinidad, where our Prime Minister is presently attending, that there will be some wisdom in ensuring that there is some effort also being placed in ensuring that the softer approach. We know that throughout the region there is a lot of homes that are being taken care of by single parent. It's something that we have to begin to wrap our heads around and see how best we can support these single household in ensuring that 1, 2, 3 children inside of that single parent home, that they can keep them on a straight and narrow path, because it's very easy to stray. I believe, Webbo, that the entire region is looking for something tangible from this symposium. I believe that for many years we have seen a lot of young lives being wasted because of violent crime. And I'm hoping that at the end of this, the people of the Caribbean can say that, look, there is a serious and tangible approach to mitigate against crime, so that we can live and see that the Caribbean, which in my mind is probably the greatest creation when it comes to sun, sea and sand, that we begin to enjoy it, and that crime, we can, in the not too distant future, look at it in our rearview mirror. It is going to take some resources, it's going to take some real commitment, it is going to take an all hands on deck approach, and I believe, I am truly convinced that while we seek to use the heavy approach, that there must be twinned with some softer and gentler approach as well.
Well, based on what I understood out of that symposium that Dr. Drew is attending, they are about to come up with a united front to confront the United States where these guns are manufactured.
Because the Caribbean don't make guns.
And in that regard, see how they could lobby the United States through its elected leaders, President Biden, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. More or less to put pressure on them, to ask them to tackle the NRA, National Rifle Association, with reference to those assault weapons and even handguns, because a lot of handguns have been manufactured and distributed through the National Rifle Association, and in that regard they become prevalent on the streets.
Okay, let me take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening. While I agree with Mr. Brand concerning the softer, gentler approach that is needed, there's no silver bullet, and there's a hardcore element, I think, which is not going to respond to the softer, gentler approach. And I think the law enforcement people are going to have to deal with that particular element, right? I think we missed an opportunity when we had the respite, especially during COVID, to really do some psychoanalysis, because I mean, when you look at what it takes to actually shoot somebody in cold blood, I don't think a softer, gentle approach would deal with that issue. There's one thing I wanted to ask Mr. Brando. You know, you pivoted, but I on the news some time ago there, I understood that we got some in St. Kitts got some asphalt from Nevis.
Yes.
From Public Works or Pages?
Well, it was a collaborated effort because, like I said, we had utilized some of the equipment, the heating element from Public Works to produce that asphalt for St. Kitts.
So there are actually two asphalt plants in Nevis then?
No. There is one asphalt plant, but ours was down, and we had utilized the heating element from them to mix it.
Okay. Okay, I want to go there. And can I ask you a political question? Sometimes I monitor Facebook, and I see some things there, and you can say no comment if you wish to, or you know, say it's fake news. But there is some indication that there are some political moves being made in CCM, and your center. Right in the center of it, in terms of, I don't know if you want to call it a challenge to Mr. Brantley's leadership coming around in the next election. Yeah.
The Concerned Citizen Movement has one leader, and that is the Honorable Mark Brantley. So that is fake news. I'm not even going to let you.
Okay.
That's fake news.
Okay.
Let me. Something you said earlier, though. I don't want you to misunderstand me. That. The softer, gentle approach is in effort to try and prevent some of our young people from getting into crime. While you still utilize that, of course, there are some elements that you're really going to have to go at them very hard and very aggressively. But I'm saying that softer, gentle approach would be able to be utilized to keep some of our young people along a particular path that they do not end up on crime.
Yeah.
Okay, that is the approach that I'm hoping. It must be a twinned approach. That I think that, because I mean, you always used to hear double fine work for idle hand to do. So, and I think that if we can give them that kind of support with that softer, gentle approach, then I think that we can prevent some of them from getting into a life of crime.
You realize, though, that you can, a lot of these problems might be related. So, for instance, the things with the people smuggling, guns, gun running, all of those can be related. Drug interdiction, and we wonder about our surveillance, the surveillance of our coastal areas. I mean, if in fact enough is being done in that respect, because if we don't solve, that's one way of getting at the source of the guns, making sure they don't get in here in the first place, right? And I'm not so sure we are doing enough at that end to the prevention and to prevent them from coming into the country.
Caller and the panel, might I ask a question for a response and maybe a discussion? I had a conversation with a member of the society today on the same topic, and they remarked that it's not so much the guns and the weapons, but it's the brain and the mind. Because it is my view, and I have said it here, that if a person has an intention of doing something, killing you, and he wants to do it with a gun, and he cannot find a gun, and the intent is still there, he'll use a knife or something else, correct?
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing,
you realize, of course, so that guns are expensive, right, and bullets, and there may be something more nefarious behind all of this than the intent, local intent, right? As in most cases, follow the money, right? Whatever the gun running, the drug smuggling, the people trafficking, all of those are apparently lucrative enough for people to take all kinds of risks.
Well, let me ask you this. If you are a person, I hope I'm correct in using a hypothetical with you. If you're a person who does not have the mindset or the intent of killing persons, and a partner brings 6 guns by you, you will take them up and go kill people?
No.
Okay. Because you don't have the intent, but you have the guns available, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, the question I want to ask for discussion is when persons commit high crimes, you know what I call, the real
White collar?
They have the white collar and also the black collar. They have black collar ones? But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The major crimes.
Of course, so.
The major crimes. Do you think that those things are done overnight or they're done over time? Meaning that the persons used to try and do some small things for us and get away with them?
Again, you see, there are different levels. I believe that there are people that we don't know about who are pushing an agenda, whether it is a higher agenda in terms for profit. It's usually for money, or less likely for power, but mostly for money. And then there are these down here who they use as pawns to use trivial problems between, let's say, between our youth and so on, and have this as a way out. That is what I don't understand. What makes our youth feel that they can solve what is essentially a domestic in the sense of our local problems by killing each other? It does not make sense.
Yeah, but the question I'm asking is this, when I use a hypothetical with you. Let me ask the question this way. Who is likely to commit crimes? Persons who are obedient in general, or persons who are by their very nature and living disobedient and ill-disciplined?
I would use it aggressive as opposed to obedient, right? If there are people who are naturally aggressive, angry, discontented, and even marginalized,
those are the persons
their way of taking out. That could be their way of taking out their anger.
Right. So those will be the persons who are likely to maybe take out their anger in that way.
Yeah, and they're the person who are whoever with the bigger agendas are up there. Because, like I said, I mean, these people, the guns and so on, cost money, and these people who we just described are unlikely to have the kind of resources to acquire. Okay, and so it's a case. That's why I said it's on 2 levels. The one up there with the whatever agenda they have, and the one low down who are used as pawns. Either way, let's hope that whatever they come up with, and like I said, there is no silver bullet, there is no magic bullet that's going to solve all of this one time, and it's probably going to be a tough long-term battle. I mean, we thought we had it licked with the so-called peace initiative or pay for peace thing, but obviously the problem is still there. And the fact that it's throughout the region is more than a coincidence, than there's a coincidence. Yeah. So it's good that they're doing a regional approach, and let's hope that collectively we could come up with some kind of solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I think the people has great expectation of such conference, Webbo, because I think on an average we have said it all. Even what Mr. Ban was talking about, the soft approach, I think that is a shared responsibility of school, parents, he would say church and civil society, and every good organization or group that exists within a society. I anticipating something which is almost quite unique and never heard of coming out of that conference. Because, as I said, we've been talking crime so much, we have discussed and said most and many things. But the former Prime Minister, he was saying, when he was Prime Minister, that all the leaders from across the region was calling him to find out how he get this thing do. You know, which is this peace process and so forth. So he seems to have the know-how. I don't know what happened, but if he still have the know-how, I guess it's been exhibited right before our face in St. Kitts. So maybe Dr. Drew has an idea, but it's a great thing that they're coming together as a region, because this thing spread right across the region. Guns coming here, don't know where they're coming from, and we all are saying the very same thing. And so we've got a lot of work to do, and expectations are very high.
Yeah.
Expectations are very high, because solution, I don't think there would ever be a situation where there is no crime. I believe the way the world is going today, we might be seeing more of a surge than a reduction, to be quite honest with you. The kind of rhetoric that we exchange, even in peacetime, but when the political what could I say, season come around, the kind of thing, the kind of threat we evoke, the kind of temper we sharpened, you know, and so forth, and so we here on the local front have a lot to do, you know, in our house with our little kids and so forth. We are fighting against a monster, you know, which is what comes through the cellular phone, what comes through the gadgets these days, you know. And sometimes I think they have created this circumstance, and let them work hard to solve it. We will try our best as well, you know, but the people can only do a certain extent. I think Mr. Stanley would agree with me that money makes the mare go. And some people feel that money can solve all the problems. No, here we got a big problem here in the Caribbean region, and let's see if leaders coming together can really come up with a working situation that can make us feel better about the crime situation. Because I always think what happened in St. Kitts in the last 5 years was almost like a false circumstance, you know. Of course, being filled with the idea of finance than with a desire or other reasons to stop this criminal activity. But there is hope. I believe there is hope. There's hope that in a sense that I don't think we're probably going to be seeing it at a great increase in rate if the leaders really coming up with something. But I don't think we can eliminate it, because I think once we're living in this kind of a system, we're living in capitalism, you know, where the strong oppress the poor, where equality is profound, inequality is profound. These are things I suppose we'll probably have to look at. I hope the leaders can look at them. The disparity between the rich and the poor, the feeling of not being a part of the equation. It's a lot of things we got to deal with, because it's a small society, and these things reverberate against the walls of these little places. In a sense, we're not in the States. We're not in a big place. You know, we see what goes on sometimes. We see the corruption. We see how one side is being taken care of and the other side is not being taken care of. There's a lot of inequalities, and I suppose I am not saying that these are excuses, but these are things that within a society makes people feel different. And I'm not saying everybody will always feel the same, but feel different in terms of their involvement, their concern, and even as it relates to equal opportunity, and that's a profound thing there, equal opportunity, you know. And I'm so I think a lot of changes have to come from the top, where it can be enforced, where it can be practiced, where it can be an example, to the everyday people. And I think what Mr. Brand says in terms of soft approach, I think this fall right under that heading. But I think there's a bit of hope still. Let's see what comes out of that conference.
I'm listening here, and I think it might have been last week, Edric recited a quotation. The heights that great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward through the night. And it doesn't necessarily mean the dark hours.
Right.
They could have been toiling 24 hours, even toiling upward through the daylight. And some of the times when we're making statements, we need maybe to make that statement in the midst of it. Because sometimes people complain, Edric has this and Edric has that, and I ain't got this and I ain't got that. And you need to sometimes say, the heights that Edric reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but you, while you were skylarking, Edric was sacrificing. If you don't do that, you may not get that problem solved. As the lady told me today, who I was speaking with, all the talk we're talking about this crime, and so we got to get this mind under control. Anybody have seen blue and red and green and white headlamps and stuff like that, and all kind of color of light?
Yes, sir.
And I didn't know that. I thought it was only I alone see it till when I hear the police complaining about it. And what I find is interesting in that is like public works. Mark, you are not cursing you all public works, because the road over here need patching, and I don't want you to don't come and patch it. So I'm just using a hypothetical example. But if you take the Ministry of Communication and Works, under Mr. Brand, let's use Mr. Brand, because Mr. Brand can take a criticism. Mm-hmm. And you look and you see, let's say, a pothole around the waterfront in Charlestown. And it's there for a week, and then 2 weeks, and 3 weeks. And you keep wondering to yourself, why come down here every day and I go in St. Kitts and I see this thing? Why does Mr. Brand go St. Kitts too? I wonder if you don't see it. You ever notice that the only person who is not aware of something is wrong is the person whose duty it is to fix it? Never notice that? Mm-hmm. You never notice that, for instance, if a light is out on a particular pole, it's there for weeks, maybe months, and you never wondered if the folks who are in charge of that never see it? And they seem to never see it until somebody mention it, and then they get vexed with them, and then cause it. You all never notice that?
Quite so.
Yeah.
Well, you see, these are the things that we must grab as realities and stop mask them. Otherwise, we'll always be doing talk. We'll end up doing talk that don't get any result. We must, accept the things as they are and where the issues are. So, again, as part of the conversation, in a lot of whatever way we want, when we are complaining that nobody give me this and nobody give me that, we must also add in that thing about the high.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, because I don't want to give no impression that people would simply accept the inequality that we find within the society. When I say inequality, I mean the rich and the poor thing, the disparity. Because I am one who know the rewards of hard work, and anybody who around me would know how much I speak to that concept of hard work and discipline and independence, and not be the one to be always asking for, but put yourself in a position to help. I mean, that's how I live my little life. You know, I live a very simple life, but I'm a man who, anyone who close to me can tell you know, I know the rewards of hard work, and I encourage that to the fullness. And those who does not inspire me to be that way, I don't keep them around. And so, yes, you got to put in the time, you got to put in the discipline, you got to work hard. You know, life doesn't come, nothing come easy, and opportunity is going to pass you by if you are not prepared to work hard. And so, in the midst of all what I've been saying before, I agree with you, Webbo, that you must punctuate the fact that you can change your circumstance by hard work and discipline, and inspire someone else around you to do the same. And yes, it would be a better society instead of sitting around looking at a man who have something and saying, oh, he got all and me and none. That is a negative. I think that negative any kind of successful approach going forward.
And let me just add to that also again, Naya. We are a Christian society, and let's add faith to that, because when we in our Christian society, if we do the things that are fair and do the things that are right, it seems like magic, but it ain't magic. It is faith. That somehow, you ever hear the older folks, especially a lot of those single parents, say that I didn't have a thing,
Yeah, man.
and I didn't trouble about, and all of a sudden the Lord provide. So these are things that are not. Listen, sometimes when we were growing up, we used to use this phrase from a song by James Brown, I'm the hardest working man in show business. And I tell my guys, whatever you're doing, whatever it is, it doesn't matter the topic, put in the work. And you leave the rest. And again, we're Christians, so if you read your Bible, you're going to find it work out to you. I got a call today. You all listen tomorrow morning, and you all going to get some news, all who like news. I got a call today, and the person said to me, I call you personally so you can hear my voice. God is good.
All the time.
And they said that because of where they were and where they are now, and they call me. So that also has to put in the mix. And Naya can testify, I'm sure, and no Edu can testify, Mr. Brand, right? How rough it has and is still. But they keep working and working, and then when you look, it work out little by little, right? So
It's going good.
I just want to not negate what has been said, but add that as part of the discussion and debate for balance. Just as when we were talking about the topic with the Fox and Dominion, and when we say, okay, there's one aspect of it with the monies, but then there's another aspect of it. So I just wanted to do that. Edric, you want to get in?
Yes, well, I have plenty to say. The thing is that today I saw one of my tenants, and the tenant was asking me for reprieve, and I said, look around. I've given you a mint. I also gave you instructions as how to work the mint. But you're not listening. The mint is still here. Just do what I tell you. Don't come back to me to ask for reprieve. She said, I understand. I say, you are of a generation that does not listen. So I said, just do what I tell you. Everybody said the only person who could work this place is Edric Stanley. That's not true. if you follow my instructions, put in the hard work, do what I tell you, you would find, because the people come, they got the money, have the product when they come, so that they would see, they would leave their money, go with the product, you get your profit. From your profit, you get your reprieve. Now, let me back up.
Okay, while you're backing up, let's get Bran in, case he wants to come in and we don't have a lot of time. Bran,
I just need to say one little thing.
Walk with me. Bran, go ahead.
But I just wanted to ask one question.
Yeah.
You are correct. We are basically out of time. Is it that we have become an impatient society, an impatient generation, with all that we have put on the table tonight? Is it that we are at that stage? Talk about where we put the quote on the table. Is it that we are not prepared to put in that hard work? We are not prepared to burn the midnight oil. It's a question, Webbo, and maybe Mr. Stanley.
Well, I would say, based on what I told you today, I saw fellows playing cricket in the jurisdiction I lived, but I never played. I actually saw them playing, and I came by and said, "Boy, give me a knock." They gave me a knock because they respected me. I play domino. I'm a fierce domino player, but I don't waste time on the domino board. My thing is always to produce, and from that production, the reward's going to come. I just have to say, the peace program, they still have people in it. Work with that nucleus. Get those people in. Talk with them, find out from them who their associates are, and ask them to ask the associates what do they need to bring them onto the side of the law, or within the law.
Okay, now you're coming. I see you want to make a comment. Come in quickly, and let's go back to Edric, because remember he has a lot to say.
That's a dangerous question. What do they need to come to stop being a criminal?
Listen, Webbo mentioned the Bible. Webbo program every morning speaks to a certain type of people, and if they are in the fold and listen consistently to what Webbo has on his program, and they go to church. Webbo said tomorrow morning we're going to hear a fellow, I don't remember exactly what he said, but at the same time.
Say you'll hear some news tomorrow.
This might be a light moment going on, but people do that all the time. But he's work with me. He's about to quote me to say what I said, and he looked over and he sees me, and his fact check, he said, I don't remember, I don't know what he said. But if I were not here, he would have said what I said, which would have been perhaps inaccurate. It happens all the time.
Anyway, God is good, God helps, and all the people got to do, believe in themselves, and they just got to put in the hard work. Nothing comes easy. Nothing comes easy. But the rewards are there. The rewards are there. And if you continue to toil upward into the night, while your companions slept or others, you can't miss it. Well,
who's got the last word? Bran?
Bran, yes.
Well, I think we've had a very good discussion tonight. I want to appeal to our people, as Mr. Stanley and as you did, Webbo, and certainly as Naya did, that nothing comes easy. I think once we put our minds and our hearts to it, we certainly can achieve a lot.
Thank you.
That's the last word. This program repeats at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Map. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.